Imagine you're a Pentagon official in 1989. You're tracking the movements of global naval powers. You've got the US, the Soviets, the British, and suddenly, a soft drink company from Purchase, New York, jumps to number 6 on the list. It sounds like a corporate fever dream or a deleted scene from Dr. Strangelove, but for a brief, bizarre window at the end of the Cold War, PepsiCo wasn't just selling sugar water, they were the proud owners of a fleet of diesel submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer. How did a battle of brands turn into a literal battle fleet? To understand how Pepsi became a military superpower, we have to go back to a kitchen in Moscow and a very thirsty dictator. The year is 1959. The Cold War is freezing cold. In an attempt to lower the tension, the US and the Soviets agreed to host cultural exchanges. The US built a model American home in the middle of Moscow to show off the wonders of capitalism. Vice President Richard Nixon and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev ended up in the model kitchen, having a legendary finger-wagging argument about which country had better technology. Enter Donald Kendall, the head of Pepsi's international division. He knew he needed a win. He walked up to the sweaty, shouting Khrushchev and handed him a cup of ice-cold Pepsi. Khrushchev took a sip, then another. He loved it so much, he insisted his comrades try it. The photo of the Soviet leader clutching a Pepsi cup went viral 1950s style. Kendall didn't just sell a drink. He'd breached the Iron Curtain with a bottle opener. By 1972, Pepsi became the first Western consumer product to be mass-produced in the Soviet Union. But there was a massive financial hurdle. The Soviet ruble was non-convertible. You couldn't just take a bag of rubles to a bank in New York and trade them for dollars. So they went old school, the barter system. Pepsi would provide the syrup and the branding, and in exchange, the Soviet government gave them the exclusive rights to export Stalichnaya vodka to the West. For years this worked perfectly. Americans drank the vodka, Soviets drank the soda. But by the late 1980s, the USSR was thirsty, really thirsty. They wanted to expand to 20 new bottling plants, but they didn't have enough vodka left to pay the bill. With the Soviet economy in a tailspin and the Berlin Wall about to crumble, the Kremlin looked at their massive, bloated military budget and made a desperate offer. We can't give you booze, but how about some boats? This wasn't just a handful of boats. On paper, it made Pepsi the 6th most powerful navy in the world. Donald Kendall, now the CEO, joked to Brent Scowcroft, President Bush's national security advisor, "I'm dismantling the Soviet Union faster than you are." Of course, Pepsi wasn't planning a naval blockade of Atlanta to stop Coca-Cola. The ships were essentially floating scrap metal. They were outdated, leaking, and stripped of their weapons. Pepsi immediately turned around and sold the entire fleet to a Norwegian shipyard for scrap. They weren't interested in naval glory, they were interested in the bottom line. They traded the warships for the one thing that actually mattered, the cash they needed to keep the soda flowing. The Pepsi Navy didn't last long. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the deal became a legal nightmare. Pepsi's ships were in Ukraine, their syrup was in Russia. And the country they signed the contract with didn't exist anymore. It remains one of the most surreal moments in history. A time when a sugary snack was more stable than a nuclear-armed superpower. Next time you're at a vending machine, just remember, you're looking at a company that once had more submarines than most members of NATO. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories where history gets weird, hit that subscribe button.